Hi, my name is Mrs. Cross and I teach art at Hernando High School. For art class, you're going to need a sketchbook, so get something kind of like this from Walmart and you're going to want a sketchbook that is big enough to use for the whole semester. It also has a spiral binding so that the pages are not going to fall out. Another type of sketchbook that is effective as well are the sketchbooks that have like a book binding, and this is one that I've had for a while, so it's very beat up, but this is not going to fall apart either. Next, let me talk to you about the supplies that you're going to use in art class. Kind of sketchbook right here, and it does not have to be this brand, but just drawing paper instead of mixed media paper works as well. But when you get drawing paper, it doesn't work as well for painting. So if you get a mixed media sketchbook, then you can do everything in this: paint, watercolor, and the paper is only going to wrinkle a little bit. If you try to do watercolor or paint on this kind of paper, the paper is going to wrinkle a lot and it might get frustrating. So if you have a sketchbook like this and it says that it's drawing paper, go ahead and also pick up some watercolor paper just from the craft section at any big box store. So you can just work with any kind of number 2 pencil, or you can also get a set of art pencils. If you buy, if you pay the art fee, then you will actually end up getting a set of pencils that are for shading. A mechanical pencil is great for sketching, but a normal traditional pencil is going to be better for shading. I would have at least one mechanical pencil and one traditional normal pencil to work with. The next thing that I recommend getting is markers. Different colored Sharpies are going to be great. You're going to want those to color with, and also Crayola markers are great as well. Let's talk about the difference between these two types of markers. So Sharpie markers are alcohol based, which means that they're going to be permanent, and they are also going to bleed through your paper. So if you're working with Sharpies, please make sure that you are putting like something underneath your paper so you don't get Sharpie everywhere. The great thing about Crayola markers is that they also can work like watercolor paint. So if you don't have watercolor paint, but you want to do watercolor, if you just have a paintbrush and water, you can draw with these, and you can either color a paint palette and kind of like wet the marker and use that as paint, or you can draw directly on your artwork with these and then wet it, and it will kind of disperse and make neat watercolor effects. And with really all art supplies, you get what you pay for. So you can use any set of colored pencils, but I recommend getting the Prismacolor set if you can. If you pay the art fee and we give you colored pencils, you don't get a whole lot of colors, but you get the really nice quality Prismacolor colored pencils, and those are just going to be softer and easier to get smooth and easier to blend and mix. If you get colored pencils from the store, if you cannot find Prismacolors, then at least get Crayola instead of like the store brand, because the cheaper the colored pencil, the more wax is in it, and so it will be hard to get smooth colors and to get blends and to do shading. Let's talk about writing utensils. You're going to need a Sharpie, and this is going to be used a lot, so make sure you have a Sharpie also. So make sure that you have a normal Sharpie and like a skinny Sharpie to work with. Another pen that's really nice is this Micron pen. They're a little bit more expensive, but if you are serious about art, I would go ahead and invest in some of these Micron pens. a regular black ballpoint pen will work just fine. The next thing that you're going to need for my class is scissors and glue. So make sure that you have a pair of scissors and some glue so that you can paste things into your sketchbook. Any kind of paintbrush is going to work great. All right, the last thing that I recommend you getting for this year is some watercolor paint and some paintbrushes. So there's a large range of materials that you can get for watercolor. And once again, just like with colored pencils, you get what you pay for. So if you get a really, really cheap set of watercolor, it's going to be a little bit more frustrating to get the results that you want. So the nicer set that you can get, the better your results are going to be, but don't feel like you have to spend a lot of money, especially if you are not going to take Art 2. And this is a set of watercolor paint, so you can do the watercolor that's already in the pans, or you can do the watercolor that's in tubes. If you get tubes, then you need to also get like a paper plate or something that you can use as a paint palette. Now with watercolor paint, a little bit goes a long way, so you will not use all of this. You will just barely use it, and if you get out a little bit too much and it's on your paper plate or whatever you were using, you can actually leave it sitting out and it will dry, and then you can activate it with water again the next time that you work with it. If you can't get watercolor paint, like I was saying earlier, markers that are washable markers will work just like watercolor paint. If you want to invest in some acrylic paint, then just the little cheap acrylic paint bottles from Walmart are fine, or a set very similar. It looks almost exactly the same as what I just showed you, but it says acrylic. That will work as well, but you do not have to have acrylic paint for Art 1. But I recommend having some washi tape. You can tell I have an addiction, but washi tape will help you attach things into your sketchbook, and it can also be used to decorate your sketchbook. You're going to need a sketchbook for art class, and see you in Schoology.